Well, good afternoon, everyone, again. We are delighted to welcome you to our first ever Alabama Special Programs Power Up webinar. You know, we do host the ones that are general to everyone, but this one's special for the state of Alabama. And we're so glad that you could join us today, even though your summer has started. I'm really glad that you're here with us. These power-ups were created to help this team feel a little bit more supported, specifically in your state model of special programs, and just to give you a little bit greater visibility into what we're addressing and working on as a team to improve your experience with us. As we're going through the presentation today, I'm going to be sharing some links and resources with you in the chat. But I would welcome you to ask any questions at any time in the Q&A. That way we can whittle down exactly which is a comment and which is a question that we need to address. And we'll try to address those in real time, but I will save a little bit of time at the end just to make sure that we've answered them all. Okay, moving right along. Quickly, I just wanted to share the topics that we're going to be covering with you today. After this quick little introduction and overview of who's on the call with me, we'll be hearing from the state, product support, and rounding it out, I'll share some best practices with everyone. I'm Katie Mowry, and I'm a member of PowerSchool's Education Impact Consulting team. And I support customers' journeys as they grow into their use of their PowerSchool products over time. Specifically, I work with our enrollment products and with special programs. And I'm honored to be joined today by some incredibly smart and talented women, some of whom you may recognize. Of course, we have Stacy Royster, who serves as your PowerSchool program coordinator at ALSDE. We have Gail Cummins, who serves as the product owner for the Alabama model of special programs. And of course, we have Dana Peterson, who is an engineer on our special program support team. So we are all excited to see you. We wish we could see your faces too, but we know you're there smiling at us because you know who we are. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Stacy, who's going to start for us and share a little bit on behalf of ALSDE.
So good afternoon, everyone. First off, I just want to say thank each and every one of you for what you have accomplished this year. It was our first year with Go Live of PowerSchool, and there were lots of trials, tribulations, tears, and smiles as we figured things out. And so just keep this in mind that it's only going to get better from here. For most of you who know me, you know that I actually came from the LEA. I was the technology director for Opelika City Schools, and we were a pilot district before I onboarded here at the State Department to help Dr. Mackey and his team and help each and every one of you to understand and be that liaison and that go-between between the LEAs and the State Department. And so we wanted to bring together these power-ups so that we could help our special programs users be the best possible and get the best data out of this program. So when it comes to special programs, remember that we have 5 complete modules, and we want to make sure that we don't leave out any group that is encompassed in these 5 modules. So from our special education group, our gifted group, our 504, the RTI model, and our EL group out there, we want to make sure that we give you something each time, just in the same way that we're supporting the CIS users and the Performance Matters users. We want you to feel supported and empowered as well. One of the things that I wanted to draw your attention to on this slide here is that remember that a lot of the state reporting when it comes to the data collections outside of special programs will be how the data inside of special programs feeds over into the CIS. And this screenshot here of the Alabama State reporting page inside of CIS is very important to keep your eye on. Right now, the state is very heavily involved in getting the data ready for the 9-month submission coming up at the end of the week. If you are seeing any errors in your official state collections, some of them might have to do with primary exceptionality issues or LEP issues. It could be that you need to look on this specific state reporting screen to make sure the data that you see in special programs is being synced over to the CIS correctly. So if you have any questions on any of those state data collections, please reach out to myself. You can reach out to the service desk at ALSDE here so that they can look in the AIM portal for you and we can help you get those errors corrected. And if you'll go to the next slide, Katie. And I just wanted to do one reminder that every week I dedicate Mondays to our weekly newsletters that go out. So please make sure that you are on the distribution list. And I often get a question about how do I get put on the list? I'm a new special ed director. I'm a new EL coordinator. How do I get on the list to receive your PowerSchool updates? These are all driven from the education directory. So within your districts, there is usually a user at district office and at the school level that enter in roles and positions in the education directory for the state. So make sure that you are being flagged as your special ed coordinator, as the EL coordinator, the RTI 504, because those users will be the ones who receive this update. This update covers all 5 components of the entire PowerSchool product that the state subscribes to. So that's going to be SIS. It's going to be special programs, all pieces of special programs, performance matters, professional learning, and Schoology. And so these are very rich. They will tell you about any upcoming training opportunities we have, whether it's something the state is putting on personally, or if it's office hours that PowerSchool does regularly on their end. There'll be any state reporting guidelines that need to happen. Right now, it's full of all of the end of year processes that need to be going on by everyone. So each week it will be tailored to what's happening at the state in that moment in time. We usually link a lot of videos, a lot of tutorial guides, a lot of knowledge-based articles that help us become better users to the entire product line of PowerSchool that we have. So know that we are here to support you. We're here to help in any way possible, and we hope to get just hugely rich information out of these power-ups so that you can become the best users out there.
Thank you so much, Stacey. I just want to say quickly that I'm so impressed by your newsletter and just appreciate your commitment to making sure that every single person on this call feels well supported and is on the same page with you. So thank you so much for that. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen now so that Gail can give some product updates with us. And Gail, if you are talking, you are on mute.
Yeah, I know. I moved that little bar around and then
okay.
I put myself on mute again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, how you feel?
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here with you. And like Stacey said, and Katie, I hope this is very beneficial to you. And I only have a few things to go through today, but I think they're critical things for what you've got going on right now in your world and what's coming up. So first I wanted to go through a little bit about the releases that are coming up. And we do have a state model release that's coming up for Alabama in June, at the end of June, I think around the 28th or 29th. And these are just a few of the key highlights that will be in that release. We've got some modifications for state reports. Some of you may or may not know, we struggled a little bit with sending the data for child count and gifted. And so we had some last minute changes that we had to make for those reports to the snapshot feature and the approval process so that we get all the correct data up to the State Department. And so a lot of those modifications are at that level so that the data are all students that have integration IDTs that are snapshotted properly and the approval process works. Just to let you know that this whole module that we created for state reports for Alabama was a total custom to the model. It did not exist before we created it. So we learned a lot when we did the child count and the gifted collections. And so these are our next collection of reports that we had to make some modifications to. The EI to preschool tracking log, we've had to make modifications to it. Students evaluated within timeline, Alabama post-school survey report. We put a new survey in here. We had to make changes to that, the snapshot approval process for it. Transition verification report. And we had to do additional changes for the transition verification report that I'll go over with you in a minute too. So let me stop right here for a minute and go into the program and show you a few things that we had to make changes for here. Let me see if I can find the right tab here. Okay, for state reports, and this is all under the reporting and standard reports, you've got your list of reports here that you can review the data on a continual basis. Under the transition, let's go to preschool. Let's go to the preschool one. And then the tracking log. And these dates weren't required before. When you get the update, they will be required. And that's because there was a request for you all to be able to run the report during your own specified range of dates all year long. So if you enter in the reporting period one time, you'll see it here listed below. So what I usually do is I've been in here so much, and this is my play data. I just double click in there and I see the last range of dates that I ran the report for. Okay, and then it generates the report with the students on the report that should be in that selection criteria. Excuse me a minute. Throat's a little scratchy today, so I can get a drink of water. So this is for the students and the regular report. A couple things that were changed here. One of the requests on the update that we made changes was the preschool codes. For other delay and parent delay, we had to make some modifications to those codes per the State Department. There were additional codes in there that should not have been. And we also have in this release that if there are certain codes that you had selected, they will be converted to the new codes that the state wanted. So that was part of the preschool changes. Also too, under the state reports and the snapshot reports, we had to make modifications for the preschool students. And that was so that we only collected, let me refresh this data. When you go in here for the first time and you take your snapshot, you'll click on that button for snapshot. And you'll see your list of students here. You want to review this carefully to make sure that all the students that you want to report are on the snapshot, in that snapshot report. If they aren't, you have to make corrections, and the corrections will be made in the preschool profile for this particular report. When you're ready, you can do this approval for the snapshot report. A couple things that we did and we changed in selection criteria. In the globals profile, if you go under utilities configuration, we went in and made some changes. And what we did is we added a section for all your state reports. And we added the range of dates. And the reason why we had to add the range of dates is because this data is going to be collected in August, and it's for the previous school year. So we had to add the range of dates here like we did, you know how we had the range of dates in sets. The reason for that is because previously we were collecting the data based on the first and last day of school to determine what your July 1 and your June 30th date was. If in August or after you do your rollover, you change your first and last day of school, then it would not report accurately. So now we're using the selection criteria for all of these reports to use the range of dates. So that's one thing new that you'll see. So that's kind of what we did is we had to make sure that the selection criteria, you can always see the selection criteria here when you go in here. And you can see the description of what the data is that's being collected on all of your reports. That's going to be on all of your reports. If you go into the actual report itself, you'll see more of the selection criteria. And it'll give you that they have to have an integration IDT. All students have to be enrolled in your SIS program before you can put them in your data collection. And then it's telling you that's that new date field that we put in globals. That's why it's looking at that date, and that students have to be 3 years old between that range of dates. And your notice, and they have to have a notice. So it's pretty much telling you exactly what is expected. So these students are on your report. Okay. The other part of this, the second part, and the reason why I wanted to take a minute to go over the reports is there is no summary at the bottom of the report. If you notice on this report, there's no summary that takes and aggregates all this data for you. You have to go to your advanced reports. And when you go to your advanced reports under the preschool tracking log, you go to the preschool tracking log summary report. And I'm going to unprocess this because this is how most of you might see it. If you've never gone in here before, it'll look like this. Okay. One of the things that we're adding in the new update is we added the range of dates for processing this data. So we're going to default it to the dates for this collection period. And then you can click in process in foreground or process in background. I always click the foreground. It just takes just a minute to process the kids. And then you'll see your summary of the aggregation of the data. And some of this had to be modified a little bit. So we did make some fixes on that to display the 100%. If it wasn't 100%, only so many decimal points out and zeros on here because it was reporting blanks before. So we did fix that, but that's going to be on all your most of your state reports for your preschool, your EI, your students evaluated within timeline, and your transition verification. They're all going to work the same way. So it's important to look at these reports also. We also, in this update, are adding a summary report that's based on the snapshot itself when the snapshot's taken. That's been added for each of these for the snapshot totals. Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint for just a second. Another thing that happened, and I want y'all to be aware of this, is when we migrated all the data from sets over, one of the reports that we collected out of sets was for the transition verification report, and it was based on the documents. When we migrate over to sets, we did not have documents for all students for the from the documents because we transferred in PDFs, right? So we didn't have that data. So at the last minute for migration, we had Dennis try to migrate all the sets data from your IEPs to put in the profile. Let me get to the profile tab here. In your special ed profile, we migrated some data in here for your transition. And we totally lost sight of the fact that y'all were going to create your spring IEPs. And when you created your spring IEPs, it overwrote this data. So we won't get an accurate collection for the transition verification report. So what we're doing now in this next release is we're creating a new profile for transition. And this new profile for transition is going to be pulling data in from the documents. And we're also going to have to remigrate that data for that older IEP. So what we're going to do is run a script to pull in your data if you've got live IEPs into this profile. If you don't have live IEPs in here, then what we'll do is we'll look at the data in here. And if the IEP from and to dates falls within the range to run the report, then we'll pull that information in from here. And then the last piece of that for this profile is we will be migrating the data in if there was no data in either of those two. And we'll pull in the data to migrate in from sets. Okay, so that is something that's brand new. And this is going to be used for the years to come too, because next year we want to pull the same data from your to and from dates. So that's a little bit different in the change for this state report. So I wanted to make sure I brought that up to you. Okay, and so that's what's going on with this. I won't spend a lot of time on the other items here. The codes we mentioned, the student exiting report, the breakdown snapshot data was not done for the snapshot. We had a breakdown, but not for the snapshot. We added that. For child count, we needed the totals for the snapshot last year. You had to go in to your snapshot and filter on that column to see how many kids were for gifted and how many kids for other disabilities. So we put that in there. Referral for gifted services, we had a document for the data flow, and it was flowing. It was corrected once, I thought, but we corrected the data flow for not to pull the teacher field into the profile for the gifted teacher. So that was overriding data. So we did that change, made that change. Notice and eligibility determination document, we had a request in the SLD section that if there's a box for page numbers, and with that used to be an integer, and we changed it to a text to allow for multiple page numbers. So and that's if you wanted to send, say it's page 1-2 or 1, 2, but it was only allowing a number, so it wouldn't allow you to put that in before. Date given to parent is now a required field. That was not required before, and that'll be a required field. IEB transition section, students in middle school is now a required field. We had a request for that, and that field is at the very bottom of the document. So it's kind of tricky. And now we changed that from, used to be a drop down, yes, no, we changed it to a checkbox, yes and no, to accommodate for the changes that we made in the transition profile. So those are just a quick view of a few of the items that will be changed. Majority of this release, we wanted to focus heavily on these reports to make sure that they're accurate. Along with these reports, the export reports were also updated. So that's where our focus has been on this release. So I would recommend to you that once we get this released out, since we won't be collecting this data till August, to make sure you run these reports and make sure that it's retrieving the data that it's expected. You know, we've done a lot of QA on them. I continue to QA on them. We just want to make sure that when it comes to the collection time that the data is accurate. And we might need your help with that because sometimes we might miss something. Hopefully not, but maybe we will. Okay, next slide. Couple things I wanted to talk to you about. What's the difference between a platform release and what's the difference between a model release? Okay, we have platform, which would be things like properties on documents, behavior of how reporting works, different things like that are actually in every single state model. And so we have a platform release that's released the first full weekend of each month. And then we have the state model releases, and those are done, they're scheduled throughout the year. And so Alabama state model release is the one we talked about that will be in June, at the end of June, the 28th. And those, you can go in and see the release notes when you go in there. If you ever wanted to see what we added, so if you forget everything I tell you today, within the program, you can click on the question mark, state help and release notes. Let me show you real quick. If you go up to this little question mark here and you go to state help, every time we publish release notes, so now the release notes for June have not been published yet. But if you wanted to see what the last release notes were, you can go in here and you can see the things that we fixed in that release. You can see the things that we fixed in May. It'll show you all the items that we fixed. Okay, so that's kind of an important area to go look at. Also, too, if you want to see the platform releases, you go to administration help and release notes, and you can see what was in the last platform release. And in the last platform release, we did make a few changes to transfers. So it's good to get updated and review these so you know what kind of changes were made. Other little things that were resolved. We had a filtering issue on reports that's been fixed. And I believe someone had asked about that in this group. So that's been fixed. I guess there was a couple columns on a report. If you selected one item to filter on, it didn't display that item. It only displayed the first one in the list. Okay. And then the next releases that are coming down the road for Alabama. The next release is going to be in September and then in December. And right now we're building out those items that will be in each of those releases. So we're currently working on those. Okay. And last but not least, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about community and the ideas portal. There's a difference between, boy, I really wish it would work this way a little bit better, or I wish it did this. Those are what we call enhancement requests. Enhancement requests would be changes to the original requirements and how the software is currently functioning. And I would be great if it would do this. Those need to go into the community and be logged in the ideas portal. Other items, and Katie will go into this a little more detail, that it's a great way for the state to review these items. We're going to recommend that the state goes into the community on a regular basis and reviews the items that are there so they know what kinds of things that you are reporting. And it could be that we want a document to behave differently, and that's state driven, the documents are. So it's a great place to go. So let me go in the community just a second and show you for the ideas portal. So you're going to go into the community, which is, let me move this bar. Whoops. When you go to help.powerschool.com is how you'll get to the. Sorry, I moved that bar again and put myself on mute. You're going to go to help.powerschool.com to get to the community. If you don't have a login, you'll have a screen that you can request a login, and it can be created for you, and they'll send an email response giving your information for your login. This is a great place to go in all the time and look before you want to submit something as a request. Come in here and look to see what's already been added here. And so what you're going to do is when you come into the community the first time, you're going to go to contact support. And under contact support, you're going to see Power School Ideas Portal. Okay. And when you click on it, it brings up all this information, and it's for everything. So you're going to scroll down here and you're going to look for special programs. And you're going to click that little arrow, and then you're going to click on Alabama. And this is where you can see all the different ideas people have requested in the past. As a matter of fact, this is how I learned about the SLD section, that it was not letting you to put in more than one page number. Okay. And so there's other things in here that are great to look at. And even things like progress reports. This seems to be a struggle with the number of pages on progress reports. Page breaks, or how it's functioning. So, and that's a couple different folks that have entered that. So these are the types of things that the state needs to be able to see what's going on with them. And so that they can say, well, maybe we need to modify the way the progress report is working. Okay. Also, there's other things. Some things come up and they are a support issue. So if in doubt, go to support first. If you are in doubt if it should go to Ideas Portal, go to support first, because they'll tell you if it's an Ideas Portal item. But anyways, I just wanted to go over this. Katie will go over it a little bit more and let you know a little bit more about this. Okay, that's all I had for today. I'm going to switch it over and stop sharing and let Katie. Should I continue to share the slide, or do you want to take that?
I have it, Gail. Thank you so much for that quick tour and those exciting updates. I know everyone will be excited to see those roll out. I'd now like to give the floor to Dana to share some trends that our team has observed in the way of support cases over the last quarter.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dana, and I have probably spoken with most of you at some point or time throughout the year, since I've been your majority of your support assistance with your special programs. Hopefully, we've been able to resolve most of your issues without any major concerns. But, of course, if we haven't, you can always reach back out to us. So one of the things that we've had a lot of in the last quarter is the missing integration IDTs. And, that's usually when your data is not syncing back and forth between the SIS and your special programs for whatever reason. And I usually work with one of my SIS coworkers, and they help me get the information from SIS that is needed to be updated in special programs so that that data will sync back and forth. If for some reason, of course, you have duplicate student profiles that were created in your SIS due to no fault of your own, those have to, of course, be merged into special programs once they are resolved in the SIS. Remember, SIS needs to resolve everything first before we try to do anything in special programs so that we don't continue to have duplicate profiles or any other issues. I know that we had several calls in regards to the student contacts not being transferred over into special programs. Well, we have to make sure that our SIS staff is entering those contacts for us and making sure that they mark to receive mailing in SIS. You can mark it in special programs, but the overnight import is going to override it, and then you're going to lose that connection to those contacts in your special programs. So good communication with your SIS supervisors would be the way to handle that to make sure they're being marked appropriately. I know that the state has asked your SIS support people to go in and update their IDs to match what is out on the state website for their IDs. When they are doing that, it is creating some duplicate records for your staff in special programs, and therefore they're no longer able to log in to your special programs because they've lost all of their permissions and they're no longer using their single sign-on. So work with your SIS and have them give you the ID that they're going to update the SIS profile with. And you can go ahead and update that in special programs before they update it in SIS. And then as long as it's within the same day. And then that way you won't wind up with a duplicate record that has to be merged and then wait overnight sometimes for those permissions to sync back up again. The keyword tables were not alphabetized, and so I've had quite a few calls in regards to the assessments and the country of origin needing to be alphabetized to make it easier for your staff to get to them. If you need assistance with that, of course, always just enter a support ticket. Progress reports, as Gail alluded to earlier in the Ideas portal, there have been a lot of questions about the progress reports as we made several changes throughout the year with them, but making sure that you don't open up a migrated progress report as a document and expect it to work as the migrated documents that came from sets. And then, of course, making sure that if you are using your new live IEPs in special programs, that the annual review, annual goals progress and transition goals progress are included within that. And once they're finalized, they don't have to be unfinalized in order to enter the progress, as long as you have it set up with the correct permissions for them to edit those once they've been finalized. And then, of course, bulk reporting. Everyone wants to know how to print their progress reports in bulk. And so, of course, we walked you through that process and made sure that you understand that there is a help document out there. If you go to that same question mark that Gail provided you under the guidelines, then you can click on that and type in bulk printing, and it'll give you those instructions as well. All right, Ms. Katie. All right, so we did have quite a few calls in regards to being able to access the reports. When you are creating new reports, making sure that the security groups get the appropriate reports assigned to them. And we walk you through that process just by using the security measures after you edit the report. And of course, we're always here to help you create the reports if you need assistance creating, quick and easy reports to find that information that is of importance for you at that point in time. We're always able to, assist you with that. We've had a few calls in regards to the country of origin, the reporting information that is in special programs and what was in SIS were not matching up, and we're in the process of getting all that resolved as well. If you need assistance with your translation of your documents into different languages, I've had a few calls in regards to that lately. Now that everybody's feeling a lot more confident in the program, they're now ready to start translating those documents into different languages. And they run into an issue here and there in regards to how to get that all done. The transition form, there is a checkbox. If you are adding a transition form for your students and it is a secondary student, it must be checked or else your transition forms tend to disappear because it doesn't know that it's supposed to stay because the student is of the age to receive a transition form now. So just make sure that you check the box that says secondary student, and that way that form will no longer be removed even after you put the information in and save it. I've worked with several of you adding additional assessments for eligibility that were not currently in the program that you started using this year. And of course, we can always walk you through that process as well. And that is also something that, you know, is easy for you to work on your own. As Gail stated, there was a change in the student transfer envelopes that was done in the last release. So there are some changes that we may have to take care of when the school year begins and you start transferring envelopes again. Just making sure that you understand if you have a duplicate student in there, it gives you an error and won't let you import it. Or if the names are different, you know, with an apostrophe, with a middle name or something like that that is missing, it won't let you import them in. And so we've had quite a few of those. Being able to add and delete documents for students, again, an easy process, but one that we're always willing to help you with. And then this year we've had several that have not known how to change the year that the document was entered. They needed it to be in the 22-23 year, and they had accidentally put it in the 21-22 year. So of course, that's again an easy fix, but we walk you through that process. I'm always here and available for any questions and concerns that you might have. You can enter a support ticket, or of course use the Alabama specific line in order to give us a call, and we'll be glad to help you any way that we can.
Thank you so much, Dana. Great information.
Thank you.
Finally, I'd like to round out our call today with a few pointers to keep in mind. Some of them are a reiteration of what Gail shared earlier. This time, these best practices kind of transcend special programs and really can be applied to your work with any of our PowerSchool products. So hopefully you'll find this information helpful. The first thing I'd like to share here is a quick decision tree I made to help in your determination of whether an issue that you're experiencing warrants a support case, or if it should be submitted as an enhancement request in our ideas portal. So here we have two different paths. If you are unsure how to do something, or if you need to report a compliance related update, if you discover a blatant issue or malfunction with the platform or the model, that of course will lead you to support. On the other hand, if you think, oh gosh, wouldn't it be great if special programs did X, Y, or Z? That of course is an enhancement request. But as Gail said earlier, when you're in doubt, just go ahead and submit a support case. That way support can troubleshoot or assess your issue. And then they'll advise you if what you've submitted warrants an enhancement request, the ideas portal, if that's applicable. And now I'm going to show you some best practices to consider for your submissions to both our case portal and to our ideas portal. We'll start with support. So I shared this amazing, I stole this amazing resource rather from my work on the Schoology team. But this acronym is really helpful for you to include all of the most pertinent information in your support case the first go round. This leads to more efficient interactions with our team, kind of mitigates that back and forth with support that sometimes we engage in. But just keep this in mind when you're asking for help. The golden rule is to say please. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to this resource from the Schoology Help Center in the chat now. Be mindful that yes, it is in the Schoology Support Center. They will be merging over to the PowerSchool Help Center, the PowerSchool community soon, but you do not need to have a Schoology account to access this resource. It's just helpful in case you want to take a look at it or bookmark it. But first of all, the P is for people impacted. Share with us exactly who is being affected by whatever issue you're trying to report. Keep in mind, it could be a myriad of different user types too. It could be, teacher users or case managers. It could be, whatever it is. It could just be the admin role. So do keep in mind the role when you're specifying who's impacted. L is for links. This is helpful if you're somewhere in the program and you want to just share with us exactly where you are looking or what the problem is, or the step-by-step clicks that you took to produce the behavior. E is what you're trying to accomplish, the expected behavior. What are you expecting to happen versus A, the actual behavior? What is actually happening right now? What is the problem that you're experiencing? S isn't a gimme, but one that's worth mentioning anyway. Screenshots are great. Visuals help us to see, even if we can't, especially if we can't replicate the issue that you're having, screenshots help us a lot. Or screencasts, if you can take a quick video of what you're doing. And finally, the E is for effect on your workflow. How is this issue impacting your daily tasks? Are there any deadlines that are threatened by this issue? That, of course, is important for us to know. If your issue is timely, if you're needing to produce a report in the next day or so, we would want to know that so that we can provide timely responses to your issue. And then our next one is for the ideas portal submissions. I took this slide from our most recent PowerSchool Special Programs Power Up. And similarly to that PLEASE acronym we just saw, the more information that you include in your enhancement request, the clearer the picture you'll paint for our product team, who will then decide if your idea can be included in a future release. So for this one, explain. Why is this a useful idea? Who's going to benefit from it? How should it work if it's deployed? Are there any files or screenshots that you can attach to your idea to show or better support your idea? And in this area, you'll be able to identify if your idea is specific to Alabama, or maybe it's good for multiple states. Maybe it's good for the platform as opposed to the model. So just a couple tips to keep in mind as you navigate support in the ideas portal. All right, we have reached the end here. There are a couple of questions that we are still answering and a couple that need to be answered live. But first, I'd like to share a couple of next steps with you. As soon as this recording renders, within the next day or so, we will be sending you via email links to a PDF version of this PowerPoint, as well as a recording of it in case you missed a portion of it or you want to share with someone else. We will be sharing the link to register for our next Alabama Special Programs Power Up soon. We are determining what date that will be on, but keep a lookout for that so that you can register for that one in advance. And then over the summer, so that you can continue to feel well supported, we will be holding our Special Programs office hours about digital signature on June 30th. Having our next Power Up, just the general one, the Special Programs Power Up for PowerSchool on August 9th. The topic will be translations, followed by on the 25th, the office hours on the same exact topic. I'm going to post two links for you in the chat right now to register for both the Power Up and for the office hours. So they're coming your way right now. And then as an added next step, this is not on the slide, so keep your ears peaked. If you have any additional questions after the fact, if you've mulled this over for a little bit and you think, oh gosh, I should have asked X, Y, and Z question, or if you have suggestions for us for the next Special Programs Power Up or the next Alabama Special Programs Power Up, Stacy will be sharing a form in next week's ALSD newsletter, the one that has been highly chatted about in our chat today, for you to funnel those questions and suggestions. Know that your feedback is so important to us, and we are going to be using what you bring to us to drive our future sessions. Again, our next session has not yet been scheduled, but we will notify you again via email, just like this time, when it's time to register. So with that, I'm going to review the questions that you've submitted that are unanswered still. Gail, I think there was one you said you wanted to answer live, and the question was, what is the difference between the report and the snapshot? So I'm going to let you answer that one, Gail. And if you have any last minute questions and you want to go ahead and type them into the quick Q&A, that would be great.
Thanks, Katie. I'm going to share my screen for just a second, just to clarify that. So let me move this bar again. Okay. So under reports and standard reports, whoops. You'll see a list of the reports here. And these reports that are here, they wanted to know the difference between these reports and the snapshot. These reports can be run all year long, so you can be looking at your data all year and not waiting till the collection time period. So if I wanted to run this report from July 1 to today's date, I could do that to see what does it look like as of today, right? And so I can be reviewing my data all year long on these reports. And when it's time for your collection of your data, that's when you're going to go into your snapshots and start working with those reports, because you've reviewed your data all year long under these reports. And now you want to look at your snapshot of data. So you're going to go in and go to your preschool snapshot report and take a snapshot of that data if it's what you've reviewed and it's what you want to snapshot as of that point in time. Okay. If you need to make corrections on it, you can go in here and clear that snapshot data if it's not been approved, and make your corrections in your preschool profile, and then you can repopulate it again and it'll show you your changes. That's the difference between the two areas. This is also where you approve your report when you want to submit it during the collection timeframe that the state sends you. So that's pretty much the difference between those two.
Thank you, Gail. We did have another question that came in. Corey, who asked the question, said that was helpful. So thank you for that. The next question is, our teachers, the general education teachers, that is, have had difficulty seeing the students' IEPs, 504s, et cetera. What are we not doing correctly? And it says Stacy would like to answer this question. So Stacy, I'll turn it over to you.
This has probably been one of the biggest emails that I have gotten recently on this, and this has to do with your security setup. When we rolled out the SIS and Power School special programs, there were some pre-made roles that kind of connected all the capabilities of the special ed administrator, teacher, EL administrator, teacher, 504 administrator, teacher, and so forth. The one piece that was not pre-built out was that of the general education teacher. When you're inside of special programs in the security settings, there is a building level staff grouping. One of them is for like your principals, your counselors, and so forth, that you would want to turn that icon over in the SIS so that they would be able to see. And the other one is for the general education classroom teacher. And so the teachers would have to be members of those groups. And you basically have one of two ways that you can go about it. You can get your SIS person to build a role to connect them to so that they can add that role to a teacher's users inside of the SIS. Or you can just manually add them to that group inside of special programs. But that's going to be the key that turns that document icon live for them to be able to see the records of the students that they have in their class rosters.
Okay, thanks, Stacy. I'm just checking really quick to see if there were any more questions asked. Thank you for that. I think that is all of them. I'll give one more minute if anyone has a last minute question they want to pop in the Q&A or the chat for that matter. Let's see. One more question. Okay, I'm going to let the anonymous attendee who's typing it have a second to ask it. Thanks for bearing with us, guys.
While we're waiting on that, I did want to make one other comment. For documentation for those state reports that we had on the screen, we'll be posting that within the next few weeks too, so you can watch for that under your state help. So we'll be publishing that soon.
Excellent. Thanks for that reminder, Gail. Okay, here's the question. It says that I'm assuming active students are not showing on the 21-22 active student report.
what is the 21-22 active student report? That must have been a report y'all created in your program, maybe? Or is that in the portal, Stacy? That's not part of the portal, is it?
That's what I'm looking to see.
If you're the person who
which
asked that
report they're
question,
referencing.
if you're the person that asked that question, if you want to provide your name, district, and email address in the chat or via Q&A, we will follow up on that with you directly. One last question has come in, it looks like. It says, what about the gifted participation status changing regarding the email that Emily Hurst sent out this morning?
I'm not sure what email Emily sent out this morning to be able to respond to that.
I have the asker of the question, so Stacey, I'll copy that down for you and have you follow up there.
Okay.
I know Emily was working on a document that she wanted that status populated, and I think she was looking at utilities on how to populate that field. Stacy, remember we were looking at that a little bit, but
yes, going through the utilities to mass update that.
Yeah, and I did not see the email that Emily sent out today, and I know she's in transit right now, so she wouldn't be able to answer in this Q&A. But go ahead and Kathy, go ahead and reply back to Emily on that if you've got questions on it. Some more.
Yeah, because I think all that was supposed to be referencing were your pull-out students that you were ending their status in, but not ending their overall gifted participation in there. And so those enrichment pull-outs, she was given the quick way of how to do that in mass inside of special programs.
Okay, one last question. It's actually Donna. She's clarifying the gifted participation status. She says, is it to change fifth graders rising to sixth grade to inactive on the gifted participation status? But we'll follow up about that, or you can reach out to Emily via email for questions about that.
About that 21-22 active report, that might have been part of the diagnostics reports for migration. Somebody was saying that.
Yeah, part of sets.
Yeah. So that might have been part of that.
Okay, perfect.
And then there's one other. So if you've got any questions that really look like they hit on a support question, you'll want to send it to Dana. If it's functionality within the software and how it works for future changes, or will a future change happen, you can email me. And then, and CC Katie and Stacy, of course. But that's, I guess, how we'll handle those, Katie, is that?
Sounds perfect. Thanks, Gail.
Okay.
Again, thank you guys so much for joining us today for our first ever Alabama Special Programs Power Up. Again, check your emails and then look for the link to the form if you have suggestions or questions in Stacy's next ALSDE newsletter. Thanks, everyone. Stay cool out there and enjoy your summer. We'll see you back here in a little while.